Welcome back, hard forkers. Welcome back, kiddies. Yes, 2 shows in 1 week after such a long break. I know you're all utterly astounded by that, but as we mentioned 2 days ago, we're very committed to educating you all on Bitcoin. It's become a really important issue now, much more so than any of our time in the space. I'm sure Baloo would agree with that. And on that note, what we're going to do today is Baloo's been talking about a platform called Bisq. I'm extremely interested, so I thought we would go through that in real time for you so I can ask the dumb questions. So, Baloo, number one, tell us why you think Bisq is important, why it's different to centralized exchanges, and then we'll get into a demo.
Yeah, so because Bitcoin is really like a commodity, it has global adoption. There are miners everywhere, and there's a market everywhere. The one variable that a lot of people are going to run into is on and off ramps. So we're already seeing a lot of looming trouble and maybe looming restriction to access with certain, US based exchanges. And then, potentially that could be a trend that continues. But ultimately, Bitcoin at its core grassroots foundation is a peer-to-peer network. And there are peer-to-peer solutions out there. Peer-to-peer means somebody's looking to sell and I'm looking to buy.
It's on the white paper. Peer-to-peer digital cash.
It's on the white paper.
The headline.
So we don't need intermediaries. This is not news. Intermediaries always introduce convenience, but ultimately, if you find yourself in a position where you want to buy Bitcoin, you always have an option. And at the very bottom tier of convenience, but always reliably there and accessible, in my opinion, I think it's Bisq, or there are some other ones like RoboSats and stuff like that we'll cover at another time. So I'll do a transaction for you if you are.
Let me allow screen sharing there for you.
Okay.
Right.
I'll just pull up Bisq right here. So this is kind of the main dashboard. It's kind of, there's always going to be resting orders. So let's actually just take a look at the first tab here, market. You can see that there are a lot of buy orders in the order books right now and not a lot of sell order liquidity. So there's a lot of people looking to sell. There's a lot of Bitcoin on Bisq right now. It's a little backwards from what you're traditionally used to seeing with an order book. So there's a lot of Bitcoin on the books right now ready to be sold. And there's not a lot of resting sell orders. Now, Bisq is unique, or any peer-to-peer marketplace is unique in that because there's no third party, because there's no exchange, the order that you're accepting is under the conditions of the person that's selling it. So for an example, if I am trying to sell Bitcoin, and let's say I'm in Canada, I'm going to want Canadian dollars. So when I put up an offer, I'm going to more than likely put that offer up on Bisq to be paid in Canadian dollars. If you're in the US, you're going to be putting up US currency. If you're in London, you're going to be putting up the pound. So the offers are a little bit different. So I'll go over onto the buy side right now. And I will just click this button here, which just offers that match my accounts. We're not going to go over to we're not going to go through adding accounts right now because it's going to be unique to each person. But Bisq is really good at kind of guiding you through. And we're going to take a look at some of the offers. Now, the best offer on the books is always going to be the offer that's at the top. So you can see this currency pair, Bitcoin CHF. I actually don't even know what CHF is.
I've got a feeling that's the Swiss
franc.
Might be.
Okay. And it's priced at 1% above market price. The thing that's unique about Bisq as well is more often than not, you're going to be paying above market price. There are reasons why you would be paying above market price if you value privacy, if you value unconfiscatability, if you just want to have a piece of your HODL that's not known, you're paying for that benefit. You're paying for that privacy. So this is marked at 1% over market price.
Can I
And
just
then
stop
we've-
you there because
Sure.
just a super important point that I guess what you're saying here is it's peer to peer, which is you and another person trading amongst each other. So you're not having to KYC on this
Correct.
platform.
Yeah,
Right.
there's no KYC between peers.
Okay.
All of the exchanges are required to KYC their customers.
Now, quick
But
question on that, Baloo, because obviously we've seen local Bitcoins, which was something we all used back in the day.
we just had Paxful go down as
Exactly.
well.
So
they're
still, how is this platform still around? Is it likely to disappear? And what are any sort of issues there?
Bisq is self-hosted. It's on your machine. You host the platform. It's open source software, and it's community managed and completely decentralized.
Right.
With HODL was hosting. They were managing. Yes, it was peer-to-peer, but there was still that target in the middle, and that's what's happening with some of these peer-to-peer exchanges, like HODL, like Paxful. But Bisq, it has its own blockchain. It syncs with the Bitcoin blockchain. It runs its own node. It's a community governed system.
Right.
There's no support staff. It's decentralized and it's self-hosted and open source.
Yeah.
So it's pretty bomb proof, in my opinion, as far as what I consider to be good technology and something that you can trust.
Yeah.
Any open source software is going to
and that's such a key point, isn't it? I mean, who can we trust at the moment? Viewers of this channel know I got burnt on FTX. Binance, the rumors are swirling at the moment. So this is something to take pretty seriously, people, and I'd encourage you all to have a look at this platform. So sorry to interrupt. I'll hand it back to you.
And it doesn't have to be your main method of trading either. This is just something to know. This is a skill set. Everything in crypto is about developing skills, honing your knowledge, and learning how all of these different apps and protocols work so that you can best leverage the technology. If you want to continue trading on Binance, hey, continue trading on Binance. There are risks associated with that. And, you're a grown-up, you can assume those risks. There are risks with Bisq as well. It's peer-to-peer. What if this person just decides not to release the funds? So
we'll get to that in a moment. But first question for the audience: this isn't a trading platform, is it? This is just a place to come and buy Bitcoin from another person.
Yes, it's trading in the sense that you're trading dollars for Bitcoin and vice versa, but there's no limit orders, there's no stop orders, there's no real order book. It's a peer-to-peer marketplace. You can think of it kind of like Facebook Marketplace. Hey, I'm selling some Bitcoin. Hey, cool, I'll buy some. So I've got an order here. It's 2% above. It's for faster payments, which is a UK-based payment method, which I can use with Wise. And I'm not, just as a side note, please, this is technically against the terms and services of the community guidelines. You should always stick with the payment. So there is one here for TransferWise. TransferWise works for faster payments. But anyways, I'm going to pay pounds. I'm going to pay pounds using faster payments. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this offer. It is a little bit slow. There's always a little bit of a lag. Sometimes there's a lot of a lag.
Yeah, so while we're waiting on that, people, look, our major goal, especially initially here, is to shine a bit of a light on platforms, product services that we think are good. Obviously, we're looking at Bisq today. We've got a number of others. We're also going to be looking at wallets. We'll get into that next week because obviously, if you're buying Bitcoin privately, we then want to show you how to store it privately. Case in point, we had parked some money on FTX and gone. And it was literally there just to move back into fiat. So we don't want those sort of things happening again. Obviously, everyone's a bit twitchy on Binance. So do take notice of what we're going to be teaching you in the coming weeks.
So once you're ready to accept the offer, you'll get a QR code for payment. what's unique and cool about Bisq is they create an incentive for both the buyer and the seller to complete the transaction. So you need to post a little bit of Bitcoin into this transaction, and the seller needs to post a little bit of Bitcoin into the transaction. So both parties are putting in a little bit of Bitcoin to just agree upon the terms of both ends completing the transaction. So I'm going to
What
go
happens
ahead.
if you don't have any Bitcoin and you're buying it for the first time?
If you don't have any Bitcoin and you're buying it for the first time, you can actually go to the Bisq Matrix chat, which is kind of like a Discord, Telegram, decentralized messaging service. We'll leave the links for Bisq in the show notes, but there is a section in their Discord or their Discord-like community that says new users or first-time buyers or something like that, where there's small amounts of Bitcoin being traded without the security of escrow. So a little bit of a risk, but if you have a little bit of Bitcoin, you can start. If you have a friend that you could buy Bitcoin from, you can start as well. But you do need some Bitcoin to get started.
Now, you used an important word there that a lot of people will possibly won't know what that is, which is escrow.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a key to how this platform works. So do you just want to talk us through that?
So escrow, if I'm selling the Bitcoin, I'm actually placing, like, if let's say I want to sell, what are we buying here? We're buying 0.326. If I'm going to sell that, I have to put the 0.326 Bitcoin in kind of a smart contract. It's locked in escrow. So I'm committed to the sale of this. I'm placing it in not really a smart contract. I don't want to get into the details, but we can think of it as a contract where if I'm holding up to my end, as long as you hold up to your end with payments, then we can release the funds. So it's kind of like a digital version of a trust, or if you've ever bought a house or something, the lawyer will hold the transaction in a trust, and then it's a digital form of trust.
Stops you getting ripped off, basically, people.
Basically, yeah. It's precautions.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm just waiting for my collateral, my transaction to get one blockchain confirmation. So depending on network activity, it's a Bitcoin transaction. So as soon as the block is mined, my offer will be valid, and then I could begin payment. At that point, the payment credentials will be marked here, and I can put the information that I need into my phone for the bank transfer. I will transfer over the funds. Once the recipient receives those funds, they will then go into Bisq, and they will approve the transaction, and that will release the Bitcoin into my Bisq wallet, which is a hot wallet. I don't keep a lot in there. You do need some, but I don't keep a ton.
Could we go back to the payment methods again? Because a lot of people will have looked at that and gone, I don't have any of those. What's the deal if you haven't got Revolut or TransferWise, etc.? I mean, first question: you obviously wouldn't be using your regular bank account here?
You can.
Okay,
yep.
That sort of defeats the purpose in a way, I would have thought.
No, because on the bank's end, all they see is you paying another person, and there's no context. So like for me as a Canadian, in Canada, we use something called e-transfers. So an e-transfer, I can e-transfer anybody, and it's, Bob paying Alice. There's no context as to what it was for, and there's no reason to investigate as to why I paid somebody, because it's not really the business of the bank.
Okay, that's clear. Now, what about stable coins? Can you purchase Bitcoin on here with stable?
You can. Let me see here. There's a lot of different payment methods. Cash by mail, cash deposit, domestic wire transfer, face-to-face.
I see India on there. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty global. They've also got prompt pay for those in Thailand. Strike for the Americans and the El Salvadorians.
So basically,
WeChat.
is it the seller that is effectively saying, "Hey, this is how I need to be paid"?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So
Right.
if you're in Thailand, you can put it up as Thai bot. I'm selling this much Bitcoin for this much Thai bot.
Yeah.
And that's where the liquidity is kind of an issue because all of the different payment methods are so specific that you don't find a lot of,
Yeah.
you find, yeah.
Okay. Hey, next question. That's a bit of an obvious one. So basically, as the buyer, you're paying a premium here. We're seeing sort of 1%, 2%, etc. That's basically over an aggregation of the other major exchanges, right?
Correct. Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you were selling Bitcoin now, it would obviously make more sense to be selling it on Bisq. You're going to get more than if you were doing a spot trade on.
And, there's even a little business opportunity for those that want to kind of dabble at market making. You can do both buys and sells where you can sell it. I've accepted 5% over market on Bisq.
Right.
So you could sell at 5% over market and you can try and scoop up anything that's at 0 and you can just become a little market maker for Bisq.
So it's sort of unique. The reason to be using this really is very much centering around a peer-to-peer trade, something that you don't want everyone else having to know about, KYC, etc. On that note, though, do we know are certain regions breaking laws using this platform? Is it restricted?
You're gonna have to, it's up to the government as to whether this is an okay thing to do. So
right.
There's a lack of legislation in general, and most of the countries that are going to be kind of heavy-handed with this, I think, would be China. I think would be probably the United States, although they don't have any
funny you're mentioning
legislation.
those two countries in the same breath when it comes to crying
Right,
eyes.
right. Well, the
That's why we're
U.S.
back
is
and making
free.
shows, people.
The U.S. is free in a lot of ways, but money's not one of them.
Yeah. Your
But
value, basically.
yeah,
You.
so you need to go and do your own research. Everybody's situation is unique to themselves. So
Yes.
you do need to realize that if you are buying, that's okay. You can use the platform, but if your government requires that you report crypto holdings, well, you have to report crypto holdings. So just putting it out there that that's what you need to do. All right, I'm actually going to stop screen share just for privacy purposes of the other individual because it does show transfer information, and I think that would be unfair to show that stuff on YouTube. But it's kind of not important because the rest of it kind of happens on my phone anyway. So I'm going to go into my Wise transfer, and I'm going to send the amount specified by the seller while filling in any dead air.
Yeah, sorry,
while I do
I'll
that.
chat away while you're doing that. So, people, what we're more than likely to be doing here is showing the completion of this transaction on our next show, which will be on Tuesday. It's the trading show that Baloo and I have restarted. So, any questions you've got regarding Bisq, we will cover those next Tuesday. So there'll be a link to Loadable Baloo's media. You can talk to him directly if you like, or just put comments below this video on how to use it. See if you can do two things at one time, Baloo. But who do you think this platform is for? Is it more for someone that's been in crypto for a while, or do you think it's easy enough for someone brand new to grasp?
It's when you first install Bisq, there's a prompt for everything. It's got a really good tour. It's complicated at first and it's messy, and there's not a lot of apps that it is similar to. So it's kind of like how I was when I first got to Discord. Like Discord was unlike any app that I had seen. It took a while to figure out where stuff was. It took a while to figure out the layout, but it's really quite simple once you get the hang of it. And Bisq is no different. It's probably just like the first time you traded on Binance. It's complicated. Like, what is this? What is that? This order, that slider. You just learn the platform, but
Just
it does take a few transactions.
As a
to
matter
kind
of interest, can you list the sales that are available by the amount? I'm just quite intrigued to see what sort of amounts people are actually selling on here.
Sure. Yeah. Let me just
to
double check my
does it
credentials
tend to be
here.
less than a Bitcoin, or have you got
Yes,
people
it's
on there
all
selling a ton?
No, you don't have people doing Bitcoins.
Right.
And the reason for that is because if you were doing that type of volume, it doesn't look like a bank transfer. It doesn't look like a normal bank transfer anymore.
Gotcha.
You're going to have a bank come in and be like, what was this $28,000 transfer for?
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's different in every country, but ludicrously, I know sort of that magic number of 10,000 US seems to be a flag that's been around for years.
And it's becoming more common that 5,000 is the threshold.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
So, but when we talk about privacy best practices in the show about wallets that will come up, it's actually better to separate all of your Bitcoin into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
So
we're going to talk you through all this as slowly and as basically as we can, people. I know for a lot of you, even for people that have been in the space for a while, things can be confusing. So I think you've been using this one for a while, yeah? And you've all done.
So I've completed the transfer.
Yes.
So at this point, the recipient has received the funds, and I'm just waiting for the recipient to go log on to Bisq and release the Bitcoin to my
so
wallet.
when you say they've received your funds, this comes back to that word you used before, escrow.
Yeah,
it's currently in escrow. So
no, the fiat is not in escrow.
Oh, it's not.
The Bitcoin is.
The Bitcoin.
So they could just take it. But they are making money doing this. A lot of people that are on the sell side of Bisq are market makers.
Sorry, back up there. What do you mean they could just take it?
I've sent them the money.
Right.
I can't reverse that transaction, and they can allow the Bitcoin transaction to expire and they lose their deposit.
So you could get ripped off here.
You could.
Now,
I have done hundreds of transactions and I have run into zero issues, knock on wood, but it's theoretically possible.
Now,
another reason why it's probably better to stick to lower transactions as well.
I hear you. So is it a case of you often sort of see the same person that you trust and you'd buy and sell with them, or
very good.
Is there a rating system or something like that?
So there is a rating system. Account information is kind of a good place to start. So this account has been active for 6 days, not a lot of trust, whereas this one's been active for 398 days. So it's got a lot of trust. You can go in, and then when you've done transactions with individuals, you can give them a rating yourself as far as the speed of the transaction. If the transaction's just done right away, I usually give them an A. So this guy I've done one transaction with and I gave him an A. This guy I've done one transaction with and I gave him an A. This individual I've done 4 transactions with and gave them an A. So you can make little notes as far as that as well.
Can you sort it in order of the most trusted sellers?
Yes.
You can. Okay, that's a good feature.
So there you go. We've got the most trusted seller here at 1,253 days, just by time. Right. Just by time. So, time is a measure of trust on Bisq. The longer this account has been online, the longer this account has not been stealing money from people. And I honestly, I've done hundreds of these. I've done hundreds and I haven't had any issues whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying there's an incentive for them to want to keep using Bisq just as much as there's an incentive for me to want to use Bisq. And a lot of people on the sell side, they don't want to go to Binance and sell. For whatever reason, if they're concerned about privacy, they want access to these tools. So they're going to use the tool that gives them the privacy that they're after. So there's an incentive for them to behave and be good actors here.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. This is very impressive. So what
So
are the other sort of
the
key
most
things to point out?
the most trusted account with an offer today that fits my offers here is also selling at 15% over market. So I'm not going to pay.
15%.
Yeah, people can get real cheeky with it.
Wow.
There's a few offers below that that are 30% over market.
So the most trusted guy is asking for between 15 and 30% above market price.
Yeah. So, I don't know what that's for. I don't know who that's for. I will say that your first transaction on Bisq, and that might be what this is. Your very first transaction, you do not have access to a lot of the liquidity. So a lot of the sellers won't sell to untrusted users, and there's a 30-day trust period. So after your first transaction, you're going to have more offers come to Bisq. So if this is something that you're on the fence about, or you're thinking that you might want to use in the future, I encourage you to get in there and do one transaction.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that it's ready and primed for when you're really ready to use it. Because there's that annoying 30-day trust period that they do.
And with anything new, always start out with a small amount while you're wrapping your head around it. So just in summary, Baloo, here, this is actually an app that you need to download.
Correct.
It
yes.
sits on your laptop, your PC, or your phone.
This app,
on that, on that note, is there any sort of hardware it doesn't work on? Is it across Mac, etc.?
Yeah, Mac, everything. Yeah. Windows, Linux.
Okay.
And it's self-hosted. So this is a node. So you are part of the network when you're using this. You're running a Bisq node, and the Bisq escrow contracts and all of the Bisq community stuff.
Yeah.
And it helps. It forces decentralization as well, because every single user on Bisq is also running a node. Gotcha. So there's forced decentralization.
Which is vitally important. The way things are heading, people will get into that, and that's a show in itself.
Another thing that's kind of noteworthy, since we're talking about nodes and stuff, Bisq also runs on the core network. So it's inherently private. You don't need to worry about VPNs if you're concerned about privacy and what it is that you're doing.
Yep.
It runs on Tor, so you don't need a VPN or anything like that to hide your IP. Your IP's never tracked.
Excellent. Okay. So obviously what we will do is we'll show that how this transaction played out on Tuesday's show, because obviously we need to wait for that person to, so it's not really instant, this thing, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not instant.
Yeah. The other sort of big question I've got here is, obviously we've understood that you've sent that money to the seller. He's put a certain amount of, or he or she has put a certain amount of Bitcoin in the escrow. So if he were to take your money and not send you the Bitcoin, you would then report this person. And
yes. So basically, if they were to not complete the transaction would expire, which for my transaction ongoing here, it's a 24-hour transaction. So at 24 hours, it would then go, a button would pop up here that would be called Mediation. And it's where a Bisq community member comes in, looks at the data, looks at the transaction, looks at the chat, because you can also chat between the two people. And if the person's non-responsive, then the mediator will just allow me to get my Bitcoin. Now, for those that are really concerned about that, there are also percentages in escrow. So Bitcoin deposit right here. So so this column is saying, oh, you have to deposit 30% of the Bitcoin to initiate. This one's 15%. If you're worried about somebody just running off with your funds, you probably don't want to take a 15% deposit. You would much rather take something like a 40 or a 50, because if I post 50 and he posts 50, it doesn't matter if he runs off, I can get the full amount that we're,
gotcha. Now flip that around. Can you get ripped off if you're the seller? It doesn't seem so, because you were being sent the money first, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's really only the buyer that's
assuming a little bit of risk. Yeah.
Okay. And do we have any stats? Is there any way we know how many times something has gone wrong on this platform?
I don't have stats. I just have my own anecdotal experience with
Yep.
well over 100
Okay.
transactions now.
Yep.
And I haven't had a problem with any of them.
Okay.
And
All
I've
right.
been using Canadian dollars. I've been using US dollars. I've been using pounds. I've been using Australian dollars. I've been using everything.
Yeah.
So with people all over the world.
Now, are you linking? You're not linking a bank account to this, are
No.
you? Right.
No.
Okay. It's just you would get that person's bank details if you were doing it that way.
The bare minimum information required to send them a bank transfer.
Okay. And you can
that's
chat
going
with
to
this
depend.
person and say, hey, would you accept USDC or USDT as well? You can.
No.
No. So they're saying this is the only way.
You can, but that goes against the terms and services, the community terms and services. So if there ever was a problem, let's say, we have a Zelle offer here, which is an American bank transfer. If the offer stands as Zelle, and then you get on and chat and say, hey, can I pay you with USDC? The seller might just say, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do that. And he'll do that. But you're trusting that he will do that. And you're now in violation of Bisq's community guidelines. So if the seller wanted to screw you over, and not release it, when you go and press the button for mediation, they're going to side with the seller because you didn't follow the appropriate offer.
So maybe just to wrap today's video up before it gets sort of too long for people, we're trying to keep them sort of short, understandable. Maybe just click on one more and just show us where we're seeing what they would accept, because for me that would sort of be one of the main issues. I don't have a Revolut card, so that sort of rules out.
Well, you get Revolut. It's pretty easy. Get Wise. Wise is
we're gonna go through all the cards in the coming weeks. I've already begun that process.
The more payment options you have available, the more liquidity you have on Bisq. So I've got like 10 different ways that I am willing to pay for Bitcoin on Bisq. I may only use one or two in everyday life, but for Bisq, I've got 10 because I want to have the deepest liquidity that I possibly could have. I want to have as many orders as I possibly could have. Right now, I have it to orders that match my accounts. So I've got a Zelle, I've got a Revolut, I've got an Interac, I've got all of these. If I turn it off, you can see that there's a lot of offers that are not with it that I'm unable to accept.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I mean it's all pretty straightforward. So sort of time conscious here. Do you think there's any other sort of pertinent information to cover now? Obviously, we're going to pick this up again on Tuesday's show. So, reach out to either of us. All those links are below. And we'll cover your questions in the show on Tuesday, and obviously have a look whether this transaction completed. But look, give us your feedback. We do this for free. Bisq isn't paying us. We're trying to help you out here. Bisq is nobody.
Bisq is decentralized.
Exactly. Nobody in Bitcoin paid me for 6 years, Baloo, making content. So tragedy of the commons, it's called. But listen, okay, I think for me that's all pretty self-explanatory. Is anything else to sort of close it out today before we pick it up again Tuesday?
I just want to say that this is an option, and it's always good to be proactive in this market as opposed to reactive. I don't want people freaking out and let's just run through the scenario where the United States bans Bitcoin. Okay. If you are not educated on the fact that they can't because of products like Bisq, you might just panic sell, and you might be panic selling at a bottom. So if you educate yourself with understanding that, well, okay, they might be banning Bitcoin today, and that's probably going to affect the price, but later on I can sell using products like Bisq. They're not going to completely cut me off with my on and off ramps. You're always going to have options because really you're holding a digital commodity that is accepted globally. So local legislation, yes, you want to be compliant, you want to, pay taxes and do your, due diligence as far as what's required in your local jurisdiction, but get hands-on with these because they're handy tools to have. And it also shows you how robust Bitcoin is. It's kind
Correct.
of just nice to know that, you know, it really can't be stopped.
It can't.
And
It can't.
yeah, and legislation might ebb and flow to muddy the water of that reality,
Yeah.
but it can't be stopped. We have a lot of similar products to this. People are going to use it.
Yeah. Look, if you're following this content for the first time, within 2 weeks, we're basically going to show you how to buy Bitcoin and how to store it in a manner that completely means it's really yours. You know, the majority of people are still going to a Binance, a Coinbase, etc., putting all their details in there, leaving it on that exchange. We've seen what happened with FTX. But look, it's not really yours in that scenario. Just like cash in a bank is not yours, you're giving it to that bank to invest. And if they get the investments wrong, you're screwed. You know, most people don't understand these things. This is why we really do think this is time for Bitcoin to shine. If it doesn't in the next 12 months, I'll be honest, I'll possibly be looking at other things to do. I think now it is so relevant, it's so pertinent. And you know, look, the economy is not going to blow up tomorrow. As I said in our last show, I think we've kicked the can down the road for a year, so you got time. And now it's time to be jumping onto these platforms, learning. We're here to help. So reach out to us, ask us questions. As I say, links to Baloo's content are below. Get in touch with him. Make sure you follow his content as well. And we'll see you all back here next Tuesday. Closing thoughts from you, Baloo.
I think you summed it up.
I think I just covered.
I can't top that. I can't top that.
It's nice to hear.
Go buy some Bitcoin.
I'm sure you can. But, there you go. Okay, everyone. Look, we are back. We are committed to educating you, getting more content out. So please support us. Give the video a like and a share, and a comment would be great. We will reply to all your comments. We'll see you next Tuesday. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Baloo.
Have a good one.